Welcome back to Bridges. If you missed the first segment, too bad for you, but we're glad to have you. This second segment, we're talking to Marjorie Curry about her book, More Than Meets the Eye. It talks specifically and in very real terms about her journey from being an abused child to becoming the author of this amazing book. So thank you again for sharing your life with us today in such detail and your time with me this morning. So let's talk about your desire to be a change agent in this very complex system of foster care and all of the things that happen as a result of foster care. Now, we want to make sure that people understand that nothing we say here this morning is meant to dissuade folks from becoming foster parents or meant to indict the foster care system for anything. It's a marvelous system when it works.
Yes.
It is a marvelous system when it works. Marjorie is just talking about her particular journey and how she managed to overcome all of the obstacles placed in her way as a way of inspiring other folks and giving hope to other kids.
Yes.
So if you could have anything you wanted to happen, if you could snap your fingers and make your wish come true about changing this system, what would you do first?
The first thing I would do was to make sure that we had a system that's trauma-informed, that we had a system that's equipped.
That is what?
Trauma-informed.
Trauma-informed.
Yes,
okay.
that's equipped to deal with the unique needs of youth in foster care. And the reason I say unique is because every child in foster care is unique. A system may work for one child, an approach may work for one child, it may not necessarily work for the sibling of that same child. And so that everything that we do to make sure that it is individualized for the needs of that particular child.
So your sense is that it's sort of a one-size-fits-all system right now?
Yes, that's my honest perception of it. Is a one-size-fit-all, that an approach that they may have great intentions, but a lot of times even more than the great intentions are the unintended consequences, and we have to make sure that we're taking a critical look at the unintended consequences.
So what could they have done better for you?
For me,
in understanding your uniqueness.
Understanding that I'm a very vocal person, and when I'm not talking, and that when I'm not talking, that something's going on. And to begin again to pose that question of what's going on, how can we help you? And I believe that a lot of times, if that question had been presented to me, that I would have been in a better situation. I didn't feel safe, even when my caseworker did ask me, had anyone sexually abused me? I didn't feel in a position of safety to be able to honestly tell them what was going on in the home, what had happened.
That's it. You know, you mentioned in the book that you didn't feel safe, and that at one point the social worker actually asked you if anyone had touched your private parts in front of your abuser.
Yes.
How old were you at that point?
I was 10 years old.
10.
Yes. I was had just come into foster care, and I can remember the moment very vividly because I wanted to say yes, because my mother had told me, if anyone touches your private parts, tell someone.
Tell someone, absolutely.
And I hung my head and I said no. My body was telling him yes, someone's touched me, but my mouth was telling him no. And at that moment, I wish that maybe he would have dug a little bit deeper or asked me at a different point or take me somewhere else.
Or taken you somewhere else in a private interview area.
Yes, or presented the question at another time.
Right.
Even if I had given him a no before. And later on, when I decided to tell, I was convinced that no one would believe me because I had already said no. And little things like that along the way. I believe that that had the greatest impact on my experience in foster care in relationship with people and men in general, because I could not trust a man. Even if I felt that they were out for my best interest, I couldn't trust them because every one of my abusers to this point had been a male. And so that would be the greatest failure I believe I had experienced.
So what would you say to kids who are in that situation today? What lesson did you learn that you want to make sure kids hear?
Tell someone, even a teacher, a counselor, someone. It may not be the caseworker that you have to tell. And I remember telling my sister, and her response to me was, we can't tell now, we can't tell now. And even though that was my way of telling someone, it didn't work. So we have to put our confidence in someone who honestly has our best interest at hand. And maybe that's telling multiple people so that someone begins to question what's going on.
Yeah, and it's not just the sexual abuse that kids should talk about. Your sister Rebecca was beaten significantly.
Yes. And she told no one.
She told no one.
And we have to remember that was the part of the culture of my family. You told no one what went on in
You know, and
anything
you
in the
raise a
house.
really interesting point when you say in the book that you're not sure whether it was the culture of your family or the culture of African American families. And our culture is definitely one that is very quiet, very, very closed about what we consider to be our business.
Right.
So that too served as a barrier for your being able to be open about what you were experiencing.
Right.
Yeah, so tell someone.
Yes, tell someone.
Tell someone.
Speak up.
The other point that I think is really important to make here is that you kept putting one foot in front of the other, and ultimately you found your go-to person.
Yes.
We talked about your go-to person
Yes.
a few days ago. You found your go-to person. You found that person out there who loved you just the way you are, who took care of you emotionally and spiritually, and who trusted you.
Yes.
When you first met her, was it hard for you to make that connection? Was it hard for you to walk away from all of that distrust?
It was. It was initially hard because I was under the perception that she too would turn away once it get bad. Once I was no longer the little cute Marjorie that obeyed all of the rules and did everything right, that she too would turn away. So unfortunately, I did test the waters with her. I did turn into the Marjorie that I had been before, just to see if she was really
But
going to be there.
she was still there when you
there.
turned around.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And her. The words that I would never forget her telling me was, "You're going to be somebody. Yes, you're acting up right now, but you're going to be somebody. There's greatness in you." And that was
And how did
amazing.
that, I was going to say, how did that make you feel?
It was amazing to say that I'm acting like the worst child ever, but yet you still see somebody in me. Yet you still see potential in me, which was the complete opposite of before, because even when I was trying to please people, I was still getting the reverse response from them. People telling me that I would never amount up to anything. And so when I'm doing the worst I can do in life, and she's telling me, you can be
somebody comes along and says you're going to be special.
Yes.
You're going to be somebody special. What do kids ask you the most when you speak? I think it's important to know that Marjorie speaks an awful lot around the country. You've been the recipient of a number of awards for your courage and your tenacity, and just you're being so vocal on this very difficult issue. What do kids ask you the most after hearing you speak?
How did you deal with it? How did you get out? It's the main thing. How did you get out of it? So.
And your response is always?
Yes, my response is that you can take control of your future, that you can take control of it. Even though it's bad, even though it hurts, you can take control of your future.
And how do you suggest that they do that?
To just simply be the best you can be. And I got to that point in my life where I decided to be the best me, was when I decided that pleasing other people was not worth it. I found out that I was living up to standards that were not created for me, and so I began to redefine what good enough was, that I, Marjorie, am good enough.
Is it ever too late, Marjorie?
No, I don't think it's ever too late. It's a mind thing. Once you make up in your mind that I'm going to be the best Marjorie I can be, and that quitting's not an option. There's no turning back now. There's no going back.
Okay. So I want to ask you, we have just a few minutes left. I want to ask you, how did you connect your faith to forgiving all of that stuff, getting over all of that stuff? And I'm asking you about your faith specifically because at the end of your book, you talk an awful lot about your faith being that vehicle for you.
Yes.
How did you connect those two?
When a lot of it had to do with moving into the home of my pastor, Dr. Helen L. Brown, because with that, she was the representative of Christ and love. She really showed me what love was, and so now I could connect the God that the little Marjorie learned about in Sunday school class to this God of love and compassion in real life. And so that helped me to connect the two, to understand that everything that I went through was for a purpose, because he loved me, not because he wanted to hurt me, even though a lot of people may have wanted to hurt me. It was because he loved me, and so that I can reach back and help another young lady or young man and say, I've been there before. I can say those 4 powerful words. I understand. I've been there before.
Okay.
And so and for me, God made a big impact on my life, because it was, in my life, the most real thing. To a lot of people, it's not real, but it's the most real thing I had in my life. It was the most tangible thing I had in my life, because
Really?
he was always there.
He was always there.
Yes, and to have a peace coming after all of that, you can't explain that outside of God, and you can't explain it or understand that outside of God.
It's pretty amazing.
Yes.
This is amazing stuff.
Yes.
If this doesn't compel you to read this book, then I don't know what else will. And having said that, I want to give you, and there's a cover on the screen, More Than Meets the Eye. I want to talk really quickly in the few seconds we have left about the book launch. Do you want to tell folks about it?
Yes, the book launch is September the 11th at Central Park West, and that's in Toledo, Ohio. And the costs are $30 a ticket, which includes your hors d'oeuvres as well as your signed copy of the book.
Will you be speaking at all?
Yes.
You will?
Yes.
You'll be talking about?
My experience in foster care and a little bit of the book. So,
okay.
yeah.
We have just a few seconds left. What are, for those kids who are listening to you today and saying, she doesn't get it, she doesn't understand, this is the worst thing in my life, I have no clue how to get away from this circumstance, you would say to them?
Just hang in there.
Just hang in there.
Yes, you got it. Everything you need to succeed is within you. No matter what they say, it's within you.
And just be the best and the most authentic you can be.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning. I so appreciate you.
Thank you.
I really do. We have to go away. We will be right back.